Hey there, everyone. It's Dave and Max coming back at you with some talk for small businesses. Max, there's something that's come up. It's one of those unintended consequence things. Something that maybe people don't think through all that often. And I want to pick your brains about it. Restraint of trade.
Oh, yes.
We're coming into a time, there's going to be redundancies. There are people who are going, actually, I can see my company's struggling. I'll fall on the sword. I'll be the one that shimmies off. What's the story with these restraints of trade, Max? And how enforceable are they?
It's an interesting question. Restraint of trades are really topical at the moment. So what a restraint is, folks, is this. It means that you sign a contract with your employer when you first start employment, and where you agree that you will not go off and work for the opposition or go into opposition against the company for a period of time. Okay, how enforceable are they? They're debatable at all times. The courts are very, very reluctant to enforce them. However, they do recognise the parties have entered into it as a contractual agreement. So they are enforceable, but they've got to be fair and they've got to be reasonable. The courts will say to you that if you've got a restraint for 25 years, that's stupid and it's probably not reasonable. If it's for 2 years, it's still, in a lot of the minds of the courts, could be over the top. Generally, 6 months is acceptable. 3 to 6 months would be reasonable, that you're restrained to work in opposition.
Okay. So what about if hypothetically, I worked for a company, they're not doing so well at the moment, so I get made redundant, or we mutually agree that I'll leave, and I go and set up shop for myself.
Yep. Well, restraints are hard to enforce, but when there's a redundancy in place, it's almost impossible. It's not totally impossible, but almost. So the courts have said that. Look, if the employer is saying to you, I no longer require your position, I mean, that defeats their right to then restrain you from going into opposition, because you've got no further purpose for them. So why do they need to enforce it? But again, don't be so, if people are out there, don't be so cocksure that you're going to go, well, I'm just going to breach the restraint and get off and do it. Get some advice. Very important. Now, the restraint, all sorts of things you can be restrained from. Working for a period of 2 years for your opposition, maybe working for someone in the opposition for a geographical distance of 5 kilometers or something like that. So again, the courts will look at all those things. Are they reasonable? Are they fair? And look, it's really unusual for the courts to do this, and they do this in the civil courts as well as the employment court. What they will do is actually restrict the restraint and saying, we're prepared to enforce this much of it, but not that much. Very, very unusual.
Okay, so Max, what about for a business owner who they might have someone who's leaving, or they're looking at redundancies? What should they do to address it? Because I mean, surely there's got to be the sort of thing that better if you're front-footed, isn't it? Yes.
Look, if you've got you're engaging or having your employment someone who's critical to your business, but could start an opposition to you, the requirement in law is this: if you're going to get them to sign a restraint, there should be some consideration for them, and that is generally a payment. If you do it when you first start, you can say your salary is part of that. But when it's during the term and you want to introduce it, well, you've got to start saying, well, I'm prepared to give you, and look, $10,000 is not unreasonable. If you're going to ask that person not to work in your industry for a period of time, it's not unreasonable to start talking about that period of time may be paid. Those are the sort of conversations you have, but it's very important.
For any of my staff watching this, that doesn't apply to you. I'm just throwing that out there now.
Well, I think if you've got a critical, important business and you've got a lot of proprietary interests you want to protect, but business owners, it's a good idea to do it. Workers out there, be careful what you sign, because a lot of people have great reluctance afterwards. They come to me and I go, I think this is enforceable. You've got to be very, very careful here. And they go, but I got a job offer. It means I can't take it. No, you can't. No, you can't. So be careful what you sign, folks.
Well, and hey, look, this is, I think that's good advice across the board. Understand what you're signing, and if you're not sure, get some advice up front. Max, as always, thank you for your wise words of wisdom. Till next time.
See you in a couple of days, Dave. Cheers, guys.